Hi and welcome. I am Sylvia Herzog, Program Director for the Women's Enterprise Development Center. This is WEDC's webinar series, and you are participating in the ins and outs of crowdfunding, which will give you a better understanding of how crowdfunding works for small businesses. To learn more about what services WEDC provides, visit wedcbiz.org after the webinar. A few notes before we get started. You should have logged in with an individual link assigned to you at registration or have called in on the phone number provided. If using VoIP, choose mic and speakers on your control panel as shown here, or choose telephone if you have called in. Everyone except the panelists and organizers will be on mute, but you can enter questions in the question box, either for the entire group or for the staff. We will be saving all questions until the end. To the extent we run out of time for all of the questions, we will answer the remaining questions in writing and send them out via email. Today's presentation is being recorded and will be posted on WEDC's website as soon as possible. Our agenda for today is as follows. First, I'll give an introduction and overview of crowdfunding. Then I'll turn it over to Elise Racine of Kiva Zip, who will tell you in detail about the Kiva Zip program. Then we will have Dahlia Strum, CEO and founder of Mommy's Toolbox, talk about her experience raising money on Kickstarter, so you can see a real-life example of how these campaigns work. I would also like to mention that Veronica Bazan and Maria Guardado from WEDC are here and helping today with the webinar. So what is crowdfunding? Crowdfunding is using a network of small contributions to finance your project, business, or charitable cause. It has become an increasingly important vehicle for funding ideas and growth, and $16.7 billion were raised worldwide in 2014 through these platforms. Of that, 56% was raised in North America. You'll be happy to note that the bulk of the funds were for business and entrepreneurship categories, which has overtaken the film, music, and recording arts categories as the leading category. The market is rapidly growing in the US and abroad and is expected to almost double to $34 billion in 2015. All of this growth has taken place in a very, very short time frame since Artist Share, the first crowdfunding site, was launched in 2003. So how has the market gotten so big? It's just a simple multiplier effect, as more and more people are online and willing to initiate financial transactions online. With crowdfunding, you start with your own online network and build from there. You have heard many stories of companies and projects being funded in minutes. For example, in 2014, Zach Brown set out to raise $10 to make a bowl of potato salad. His campaign went viral and he raised $55,000 and had a giant potato salad party. Most likely, this will not happen to you, but you can still build a large and adequate network if you leverage your own network and your marketing savvy. So let's talk about the different kinds of crowdfunding platforms. There are donation platforms used by nonprofits and for social causes. There are debt, royalty, and equity platforms used to fund businesses. And there are platforms you're probably most familiar with, reward platforms. So let's go through each type and see how they can help your small business. We will not discuss in detail donation-based platforms here since they're not generally used by for-profit businesses. However, if you have a social enterprise, you might have a particular project that would work okay, it'll work well or okay on a donation site. Let's start with reward-based, since that is what you're probably most familiar with. The big names here are Kickstarter, Rocket Hub, and Indiegogo. Investors receive some kind of reward, gift, or discount for investing in your businesses. This is really best for product launches or test cases or anytime you're looking for market feedback and receptivity. Dahlia Strum, who is speaking later, used Kickstarter to do a pre-launch test for her new company's products. For the most part, These are all or nothing campaigns, where investors pledge but do not fund until the campaign has received 100% of its ask and pledges. This is really where crowdfunding got launched, and a lot of creative projects get off the ground using reward-based platforms. If you are a more established company, you could sign up with an equity-based platform. These platforms give you access to a pool of accredited investors and sometimes additional perks like talent listings. Companies that do well on these sites have an exit strategy in mind that investors find believable. In the very near future, the SEC will allow unaccredited investors to invest via crowdfunding, and that will open up the market tremendously, though the reporting requirements for listing companies will be much tighter than they currently are in order to protect those small investors. I'm sure many of you heard about the debt-based platforms, also called peer-to-peer lending. The biggest ones in this category are LendingClub.com and Prosper, and they both do personal and business loans. These companies usually can get you a better rate than you could get on your credit card by accessing their pools of accredited investors. However, they are generally looking for profitable businesses and a good credit rating by the owner. They do not generally require collateral. Kiva Zip is also a debt-based platform, but I'm going to let Elise talk about that later in detail. We have included a handout here comparing crowdfunding debt terms to other funding vehicles. We're not going to go over the table now, but you can download it anytime during the presentation and take a look at it later. Moving on to royalty-based platforms, these are similar to debt, but repayments are based on your revenue stream. So you pay back the principal with interest, but the payment schedule is a set percentage of your revenue stream. So if you are off a month, you pay less. This is good for businesses that are positive cash flow, but have a seasonal variation in sales. I'm going to quickly mention a couple other types of platforms so you're aware of them when you're doing your research. Litigation platforms are designed to invest in legal causes and investors get a piece of the legal settlement. Real estate platforms allow for individuals to invest in vetted commercial properties, something an individual would not normally be able to do. Medical expense platforms are donation-based and provide some relief for people who have onerous medical expenses. And finally, hybrid platforms combine different funding and reward elements and are definitely worth investigating before choosing a platform. Sites such as Fundable and Crowdsourcing may offer rewards, debt, equity, or industry connections. So they're definitely something that should be put into the mix when you're doing your research. Keep in mind there are literally hundreds of crowdfunding sites, and we have only mentioned the big ones here. There have certainly been cases of fraud, so be careful in your choices and make sure the sites you pick have been thoroughly vetted. Crowdfunding has pluses and minuses, and you should keep these in mind when you're looking at sites and ask yourself how a particular site performs in these areas. On the plus side, crowdfunding can provide really important validation of your product or market, create hype and publicity for your idea, find early adopters, and provide you with valuable market feedback. So you should look for a platform that has a community that supports these activities. Some of the challenges of crowdfunding, though, is one that it does not give you any IP protection, so you're literally putting your trade secrets out to the public. You also must be extroverted to launch a campaign. You definitely must have a good network, and you need to be able to build trust in electronic medium. A lot of the platforms have good hand-holding services to walk you through these challenges, however, so make sure you investigate the platform's customer support services. So that gives you a brief overview of the different kinds of crowdfunding platforms. Now we're going to hear from Kiva Zip. But before we turn it over to Elise, we're going to launch another poll. Okay, guys, so sorry about all those technical difficulties. You should should be able to see the screens, and thank you for doing that poll. It was kind of interesting to see how you voted, and again, actually a pretty good number of you, only 37%, thought you could only get 1 to 10 people contributing to your crowdfunding campaign. So hopefully, hopefully you could get that number up if you wanted to do a crowdfunding campaign. Anyway, right now I'm going to turn it over to Elise, and fortunately she can see her presentation now. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Sylvia. No worries at all. Thank you for that.
Go ahead.
Hi, guys. Thank you for your patience and dealing with us. So my name is Elise Racine. I currently work with Kiva Zip. It's a peer-to-peer lending site. I work specifically with our New York office and our New York entrepreneurs, which you would be if you do choose the Kiva Zip route. So just heading into the next slide, I'll give you an overview of Kiva Zip and Kiva in general. So Kiva actually started in 2005. It started as kind of marrying the eBay platform as well as the peer-to-peer lending site and the crowdfunding boom, and created this site where individuals around the world could go on, find an entrepreneur in another part of the world, and lend as little as $25 to their campaign. And those entrepreneurs would then pay the money back. And while the lenders would not be receiving any investments on their loans, they would be getting, you know, just the benefit of being able to contribute to entrepreneurs around the world who might not have fair access to traditional banking systems. So just going to the next slide, you can see what our impact to date has been. So since 2005, when we started, over $765 million of affordable capital has been lent by 1.4 million lenders to over 1.7 million small businesses and entrepreneurs. So what's really interesting is that 80% of these loans have actually gone to women, and the repayment rate is an amazing 98.6% to date. So we work with over 300 field partners in over 85 countries around the world. So it's really exciting to see just the scale that Kiva has grown to. So going to the next slide, you can kind of see where we decided to actually change our model a little bit. Starting with the recession in 2009, it started to become more clear to us that entrepreneurs in the United States were having an issue accessing the capital that they so deserved. You know, as you guys know, small businesses are the backbone of the U.S. economy. 2/3 of the jobs created in the last 20 years have stemmed from small businesses. But while there are over 20 million micro-entrepreneur enterprises in the U.S., 10 million of those are underserved by the traditional banking system. So we launched Kiva Zip, our Cuba Zip initiative, which is our US-based initiative, in 2010, and our goal is really to reinsert these human relationships into our financial system. So what we hope by doing that is to, A, expand access to capital for small business owners that have few other options, B, lower the cost of capital for small business owners, and C, connect small business owners and Kiva lenders to strengthen social capital. So what does a Kiva Zip loan look like? So they're for business purposes only. There are loans up to $10,000. There's 0% interest. There's no fees. You have up to 36 months to pay it back. And it's all administered through PayPal, and it is monthly repayment installments. It's really, this is kind of an example of some of our lenders in New York, as well as what they've used their loans towards. It's a really great way to kind of take your business to the next step, or if you're just starting out to start your business, it's a really great opportunity. So one thing I did want to highlight that's very unique about our Kiva Zip model. So right here on the top, you can actually just see the basic outline of the Kiva Zip process. You have an open application where you fill out your application online, and you work with a fellow, which is who I am, and we help you get your application in the best shape possible. And then we send you off to review at our headquarters in San Francisco. They come back and they actually give you, based off of So we don't turn anybody away based off your credit history. All we do instead is we come back and we give you a number of lenders based off your history as well as the amount you're going up for that we ask you to invite to the site. And this is what we call the private fundraising period. So you then go back to your community and you ask them to support you. And we believe that if your community supports you, that determines your creditworthiness. And that's what we call social collateral and social capital. And then that means we'll believe in you too. So once you get that required number of lenders, that's when you enter the public fundraising stage, are available to all the Kiva lenders on the site, and then you're fully funded. So that's just kind of an overview of the Kiva process. I wanted to give you as well a little bit of information about crowdfunding in general and some tips going forward. So the first tip is to know your platform. I just gave an overview of Cuba Zip. That's one available platform out there. Dahlia is going to give you an idea of what Kickstarter is like. We've mentioned a few other platforms. Really what it is you need to do your research. You need to figure out what you think is best geared towards you. Part of that is going to be the amount of money you're trying to fundraise. Part of that is the amount of time you have to dedicate to a campaign. And part of that is also the strength of your community. What's interesting is, there's some platforms like Indiegogo and Kickstarter where we suggest that you get about 80% of that money you're going out for from your direct network. Cuba Zip is a little different where we suggest that you try to get 30 to 50%. There's a little more room for you to get that money from strangers. And it's just kind of knowing which platform is going to best meet your needs as well as the resources you have available. So the next crucial step is actually picking an attainable funding goal. This is really difficult. You have that ideal amount of money that you want to go up for that would just make everything so easy. That's hard a lot of the times, and something we recommend to individuals is knowing that maybe you might go for a little less than you initially wanted to, but you want to be successful because a lot of these crowdfunding platforms are all or nothing. Indiegogo is unique where you can choose an option where if you don't get funded the full amount, you still get to walk away with the money you do receive, but a lot of them are all or nothing. So while it's tempting to kind of go for that big lofty goal, we do recommend going for something that you think based off of your network that you can actually attain, and you can always launch another campaign if you're successful. People are very receptive to second campaigns. There's a lot of creditworthiness that goes behind that, and that's something we encourage our borrowers to do as well. So next, once you've picked the platform you want to use as well as the amount, the next step is to actually craft your campaign. And we recommend that you make it personal, that you keep it simple, that you really share how you're planning on spending the money. People love to know where their money is going towards, and that you also really emphasize the impact, like why is this important. So here I have a little Kiva example that we use. We have a little portion that just says what is the purpose of this loan, and it's a really great way to kind of, and I think no matter what platform you choose, it's just a question you should ask yourself is like, what is the purpose of this? How do I share this in a few sentences in a small paragraph to the people I'm asking to give to my campaign? So next is to take a great photo. Take something that shows you with, if you're trying to start a juice bar, and if you have your favorite recipe, take a photo with take a photo with that product. Or if you are trying to start a farm like these individuals, take a photo with that. Smile, engage the audience, really show them what, you all have great personalities, show that, try to communicate that through the photo. And the next step is just prepare yourself to put in the time. Crowdfunding, it does definitely take time. It takes energy. Based on the platform, it might be a different level of commitment. Kickstarter and Indiegogo are definitely, many people have kind of described it to me as a full-time job while you do it. You're going to need to be in constant communication with people. It does take a lot of time to be emailing people, reaching out to people, calling people. Kiva Zip is also a time commitment. Our private fundraising stage is 15 days. You're up on the public platform for 45 days. You hope that it takes less time than that, but sometimes it does take the full amount of time, and you just need to be prepared for that. And each of these platforms have certain number of days that you're up on the site and that it might take. So it's just preparing yourself for that. And a big part of that that's going to make your process go the fastest as can is readying your troops. That network, the people behind you that want to support you, we always recommend that you reach out to them before your campaign even goes live so that they know right away that this is what's going to happen. They can start preparing themselves. Because in a lot of these platforms, to get up on those, how they show campaigns are kind of, there's an algorithm that goes behind them, and they're kind of ranked by popularity in a lot of ways. So the faster you get people to contribute to your campaign, just the higher up you will be in those searches, and the more likely you will be to have other individuals you don't know support you. So really let people know from the beginning that this is something you're going to do, and reach out before you even launch it. And so once you've gone through all of this, really thought critically through all of this is all steps you want to take before you launch. You can finally launch. And launching is, I have helped a lot of our entrepreneurs launch, and it's a really exciting feeling. There's a lot of work that goes into it. You want to have your messages ready for all your different social media sites, whether that's Facebook or Instagram or your personal website. You definitely want to tailor your message, get personal, be creative about who you ask and how you ask, and definitely target your niche areas. If there is communities or groups within your neighborhood that really would respond positively to what you're doing, definitely target them, definitely reach out to them, let them know that you're doing this. So here's a little example from Cuba Zip. We have this great conversations tab, and it's always great to see kind of the messages our entrepreneurs put up. And again, we asked you to take a poll kind of who you could think of in your network that you could reach out to support you. Get creative. It's there's that core group, that first degree, your friends and family, but get creative and reach out to friends of friends and acquaintances and your broader connections. Again, those groups within your neighborhood that you think would really respond positively to you. Just really get creative with who you can reach out to, and don't be afraid. Like, that's definitely, it can kind of be scary putting yourself out there, but you're going to be the most successful if you do. And crowdfunding, people have definitely heard from people who are crowdfunding before. If you kind of just own up to it and be brave about it, they're definitely going to respond positively to you and respect you for that. And then keep up the momentum. As I mentioned, sometimes it can feel like these campaigns are going on for a while. Sometimes that happens. Definitely stagger your updates. There's always going to be, at the very beginning and the very end of your campaign, there's going to be a lot of activity, just because there's a lot of excitement with the launch, as well as there's a lot of urgency that happens towards the end of the campaign. So don't freak out. There will be a slump in the middle, but that's just when reinvigorate, come up with a creative message that really engages people in, and don't freak out. That's the big thing, is just to kind of work with that. And the last part is to keep your promises and keep communicating. Some of these crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo have the opportunity to provide gifts for contributions. Definitely keep your promises there. What we do on Kiva Zip is, again, we have this conversation tab where the entrepreneurs can interact and communicate with the lenders. And we always say it's great to kind of keep communicating them on your success, on their development, like where this, show people where their money has gone. And people always respond very positively to that. And then this is the last part, is seek support for your business. WEDC is a great opportunity. just a quick note, they can act as a trustee on Cuba Zip, but only for graduates of their program. For example, if Cuba Zip is something you're interested in doing, we're going to give you a link that you can use to start an application, as well as contact information, and we can help you find another trustee if WEDC isn't an option. But there are great resources out there that can really help support you and your growing business. And just kind of giving you just a little bit of, I said the word trustee, so what that means for Kiva Zip is a trustee kind of acts as an additional endorser to our borrowers, and there's two big benefits to, if you do decide the Kiva Zip route, to search for a trustee, and again, we can help match you up with a trustee that will best serve your needs. The first benefit is that you will actually have less required lenders. The number of lenders you need to invite during that private fundraising stage will be less. And the second benefit is that you will actually be open to loan matching. So what that means is, and this is kind of really exciting, overall, like any New York entrepreneur that decides to use Kiva Zip, they automatically get one-to-one loan matching, which means for every $25 someone gives to your campaign, we have matching funds that give you another 25%, so it just gets you fundraise faster. But if you have a trustee, you're actually available for 2-to-1 matching, which is exciting. So that's just kind of an overview of the different tips, as well as how they relate to Kiva Zip and a few other crowdfunding platforms. So thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you, Elise. That was great. We really appreciate all your information, and we're very grateful the slides work for you. So,
Thank you.
So now I'm going to turn it over to Dahlia Strum, CEO and founder of Mommy's Toolbox, who's going to tell us about her experiences running a Kickstarter campaign. Dahlia, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Great. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dahlia Strom. I'm the founder of Mommy's Toolbox. It's a monthly subscription of core essential items for mom and baby from pregnancy through 12 months. And this was actually all really inspired by my son that you're looking at right there on the front page. So when I became a mom, I felt like I was so far out of my comfort zone, and every day was a struggle when it came to learning about products. We dealt with cradle cap and reflux, so we wanted to do something that obviously was going to not only help us, but we felt like if we were dealing with this situation, other people were too, and there had to be a better solution. So we created a monthly subscription that would focus on providing core essential items based on your child's stage of development for $15 a month. And what we really wanted to know was there a market for this? Was anybody going to pay for this? And that was really important to us early on. So we decided that if we were going to do this, we were going to prove the concept by putting together a Kickstarter campaign. And if we were going to hit our goal, which we did back in May, we actually hit our goal in 3 weeks. We set it for 4. We knew that we actually had a business that people were willing to support us with and were going to continue subscribing to. So I think that a couple of things that we learned was, I know we talked about some of the rewards given, but we learned that starting out, we needed to shoot an amazing video. That was the biggest opportunity for people to relate to us, especially if they weren't going to meet us in person. That was a top priority of ours. And then a second part of that was thinking through a reward system, because while you're going through your entire campaign, you want to make sure that you're continuously incentivizing your potential target market. And what we found out was we wanted to stagger in rewards throughout the campaign, and that gave our supporters an opportunity for us to increase their amount of support, and that also allowed us to hit milestones, so we didn't really hit that many lags throughout the campaign. I think we could hit the next slide too. So really, I think what we learned was, and we probably should have done this even earlier. Right now, we have a super strong social presence. We really should have started even before the campaigns launched. Having that established community to support you is still key every single day. A huge amount of our traffic comes straight from Instagram for us. It's a point of discovery, it's a point of excitement, and they want to be a part of our community. So if we would have started that even earlier, I think we would have, we might have even hit success within a matter of 2 weeks. We learned that day one of our campaign was extremely vital. That's when you're going to get the most traffic. And I think that we learned that because day one was so vital, we wanted to make sure that we were preparing ourselves by reaching out for press and PR and any type of traffic that would help us be as successful as possible. You want to think about optimizing any images that you have on your project page. So when I say that, you want to make sure that they incorporate some of your keywords. When you use, if you decide to use Kickstarter specifically, they actually optimize your URLs. So make sure that whatever you put in there, it's exactly how you want it to read in terms of your URL, because it becomes a static page. You want to budget your time for managing your campaign. It's not the type of thing that you can set and forget. It takes time to manage it. Part of me almost wishes that we extended it for an additional 30 days because it would have given us an opportunity to reach more people. The entire campaign goes so quickly. I wish that we would have kind of given ourselves the opportunity to allow it to go viral. So by having it available for 45 or 60 days, you're able to increase your amount of outreach and press. Something else that we learned was justifying your goal. Most successful funded projects actually ask for under $10,000. And with Kickstarter, they do take 5% of the funds. Other platforms don't take as much. So that was something interesting to learn. But we focused on Kickstarter because we had hoped that their internal community was going to support us. But really became about the fact that you have to be social and show the value that you're providing. So whether it's in person or online, you have to work for that campaign during the entire time that it's active. And with Kickstarter, they have an all or nothing approach. So you're not able to redeem your funding if your goal isn't met. I think we could switch slides. So I kind of like zoomed through a couple of things that we dealt with, but if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I see we did have one question about your what you call the static page. Maybe you could just describe that.
So you know how you can read the URL? That's a static page. When it's when there's numbers and letters, that's a dynamic page, and it's not really optimized because they don't know how to categorize it. But the static page lives on, and even after your campaign is over, it's still Googleable. People will still search for it, so it's still an opportunity to acquire customers after your campaign has ended.
Oh, okay. So, for example, if somebody's asking me now for images of your Kickstarter campaign, what would they Google to see that? Or couldn't they see it that way?
So like you would put in specific keywords. For me, I probably would have put in like baby subscription box.
Okay.
Or baby samples.
Okay, so if someone Googles that now, they may be able to see your page.
We didn't optimize our photos as well as we could have, so we should have done that. Those were things that we learned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's the goal, though. That is a goal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
I'm just looking through to see if there's any other questions. Here's a question for you. If you don't meet your goal on Kickstarter, does it mean that you give the money back to donors, or you just extend it? No, they don't actually give you the money, correct, until it's fully claimed.
Yeah, you don't you don't receive any of the money, so it's just it's given back to your funders. And something that we learned also, we weren't really affected by this, but other campaigns have had this issue where they don't collect the money until after the campaign is over. So if, let's say, the credit card is declined or expired, then you actually don't receive those funds, and hopefully it doesn't hurt your campaign in the long run.
So someone asked how you actually get the money once you've met your goal. So once you've gotten the pledges, all the pledges, then basically Kickstarter collects it for you and gives you one lump sum?
Yeah, so they give you one. You have to connect your bank account when you're first signing up with Kickstarter, and they basically deposit it right into your bank account after they've collected it.
Okay. Okay. Terrific. Well, thank you, Dahlia. I think it's really great to hear your story and that you were successful and that it helped your business. We're going to open.
It was funny when.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it was funny because you asked me yesterday if I would have launched another Kickstarter campaign, and I thought about it, and I would. In a second, I would. I learned so much. I think that tiering out those rewards is one of the most important things to make sure that you have consistent traffic. And I think that making sure that you're in constant communication, not only through social media, but through those updates. Those are so important to make sure that your community is involved in the experience, because they can change their pledged amount anytime. And we saw that. We saw that people would, the more we communicated, people would change, like, from a single subscription to a 3-month, 6-month, or even a year subscription. So that was really nice.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm just paging through, see if there's any specific questions for you while we're still on it. Oh, somebody found your site. Somebody found your page. Launchy's Mommy's Toolbox. Put it on the question tab. Anyway, we'll open up it for more general questions. If anyone has anything they want to put in the question box, in the chat box, and we'll try to get to most of them. We do have a little time left here. I did see a question for Kiva. Someone asked me to show slide 9 again. Which one is that? I don't think there is a 9 for Kiva, but the tip number 9 maybe that you were asking, which was
I believe that's keep the
momentum up. Okay. Can't see it? You can see it. Okay. We had asked Dahlia, I had asked Dahlia yesterday if she would do another crowdfunding financing, and she just answered that question for us. But Dahlia, I was wondering, would you consider any of the other platforms, or would you think you would have too much benefit by staying with the platform you're already on and where you've established contact?
That's a good question. I liked a couple of different things within Kickstarter where if one of the people that work at Kickstarter likes your campaign, they will promote you and put you on the front page. So I thought that was like a nice community support. I think that the biggest downfall of Kickstarter is really the percentage that they take in the end, and the fact that it's basically all or nothing type of thing where you're not going to receive partial support if you haven't reached your goal. So I think I probably would stick with it just because it would push us to reach the goal that we set for ourselves, and potentially even exceed it. And I really do like the social elements that they provide.
Okay, that's great. Dolly, so someone had asked for images of your Kickstarter campaign. We talked about that a little bit. Also, is the video you shot for that campaign on your website anywhere or available anywhere to give people an idea of what they would need?
We did link it on our website. Here, I'll pull it up, and I can actually send that over.
Okay, great. You could probably put
it should be in the About Us section, and that kind of links if you scroll down. Yeah, so we launched our Kickstarter, and it's hyperlinked.
Okay. If you guys go to mommystoolbox.com and go down to the About section, I think you can view that video there, is what Dolly is saying.
And I'm happy to send you the link right now.
Okay, you could probably just put it in the chat box.
Yep.
Great. So, Elise, I have a question for you. What happens when borrowers cannot repay a Kiva loan?
Yes, so that's a great question. So we work with our borrowers to determine a schedule that works for them. We always ask for communication not only to us but also the lenders, and figure out repayment. If they can't pay the full amount, ask them to pay what they can, and work with them. We're definitely open to working with individuals.
Okay, that's great. And then how does one find a trustee to sponsor them if, for example, they're not a WEDC grad?
Another great question. So the best way to go about finding a trustee is actually to reach out to the Kiva Zip team. Again, you'll be put in touch with one of our fellows here, so either me or one of the other fellows. And we know all the trustees that are up on the Kiva site, and we can help you find one that's in your area that can help you, and that matches what you need from a trustee.
Oh, good. Thank you. That's helpful. That's very helpful. Because, as we said before, while WEDC very much likes working with Kiva, we can only sponsor, our policy is only to sponsor WEDC grads. So if someone that we know well but doesn't happen to be a WEDC grad, we'd love to be able to find another trustee for them so that they can access your program. So is there any other questions out there other than asking for links to Dahlia's Kickstarter campaign or the video? Because I think we can get that to you separately if you're not getting it off the link here. It is showing up in the chat box. Anybody have any other questions for Elise or more general questions about Kickstarter? We will be posting a copy of the webinar so that you can see the entire thing and the slides that you missed, which were all mine, unfortunately, on the website within a couple of days. So you will have access to that and the recording that goes with it. I'll also send you, I see someone saying they're not seeing the link to Dahlia's site, so we'll send that in a separate email. So if I don't see any other questions, Veronica's writing down one for me, so hang on for a second. It's helpful to have people helping you here. Oh, this is a really good question. I guess Dahlia, or for both of you, maybe you can speak to this. Is it possible to relaunch a campaign if it doesn't work the first time? So maybe Elise, you could start with that. If someone tries to do a Kiva Zip program and maybe can't get their own private fundraising accomplished, what happens next? Can they relaunch 6 months later, or what do you guys usually do?
Yes, so our policy is that if you were unable to get out of the private fundraising stage, you can relaunch your campaign. If you failed on the public fundraising stage, and again, this is why it is important to choose launching a campaign when you do think you have the time and energy for it, you have to wait. There's a period of time you have to wait before you relaunch. It's much more difficult to relaunch if you failed during the public fundraising stage than in the private fundraising stage.
It's much more difficult to get approval from Kiva, you mean, to relaunch, yeah. Right? Because you've already spent a lot of resources, and they're not getting the traction they need.
Yes, and we also understand, getting your network. It can be difficult to fully get your network, and so we understand that sometimes people aren't fully prepared for that. But we kind of believe in the wisdom of the crowd. If you fail on the public side, the site, we kind of believe in that's how our site functions, and a lot of crowdfunding sites function, kind of believing in the wisdom of the crowd.
I see. Dahlia, do you have anything to add to that in your experience at Kickstarter?
Yeah, so we did a lot of research on failed Kickstarters just in case that ever happened to us. And what we noticed was there was a continuous trend of people making sure to mention that they needed to learn from why their Kickstarter failed. So some people had mentioned that they were too ambitious and they tried to raise too much, and when they cut that goal in half, they actually raised the initial amount that they set out for. So I think that every part of this is a learning experience, but the more you pay attention to the community, even reaching out to them if you failed and asking them what you could have done to improve the campaign, they'll tell you so much information because they're going to be your supporters. And I think that just make sure you give yourself ample time, because 30 days is a very short time period. It flies by, and running this campaign is definitely a full-time job. So
who picked the 30 days? Was that you, or was that what they suggest?
They suggested it, and I regretted it almost immediately, because the more we reached out for press, the more we saw that the timeline was just too tight, and we weren't going to meet those deadlines. So everything needed to be prepared in advance. We needed to make sure that we had our social community and our press outreach prepared before we had even launched, and we needed to also think through the trajectory of what the next 30 days was going to look like. So we should have had action items set up and goals that we were going to reach within those 30 days.
Okay, I see. So maybe 45 to 60 days would have been a better time frame for you, or was that 100%. Even too short? Yeah, okay.
No, 100%.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for your time. We're going to wrap it up now. Be respectful of your 1 hour commitments, and I see some people are starting to go anyway. Please fill out the evaluation you'll be sent so we can have your feedback on the usefulness of the program. I fully expect to see a lot of people complaining about not being able to see the slides in the beginning, so sorry about that. Also, if you are planning on starting a crowdfunding campaign, please let us know so we can see if there's anything we can do to help you, either with expertise we have here or just to help promote it. Thank you again, Elise and Dahlia. You guys gave great presentations, and we really appreciate your input, and I think everybody online seemed to as well. So everybody enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks again.